Welcome back to House Rich Real Estate Show, home of the world's best home buying tips. Today we're going to talk about the housing market and is it going to crash? Folks have been saying the housing market's going to crash for the last 10 years and eventually I guess they'll be right at some point. But what I want to cover in this video is basically a couple things. What is a housing crash? I'm going to go over some data on why I think there will not be a housing crash, going over home sales from the last 10 years and inventory from the last 10 years, and then going over how home prices are determined in the first place, which I think is a super important key on why home prices always go up. So let's dive into it. So this data I'm going to read to you is from uscensus.gov, and it's based on the average home prices the last 10 years. So I just want to kind of set the table on how home prices have done the last 10 years, basically since the housing crash of 2008, 2010. And once again, that housing crash was due to reckless lending habits because of lenders. Basically, anybody with a pulse could get a loan. People would have 3-4 loans. It's just home prices were going up. There was no regulation. It was kind of the wild west. A good movie to watch about that housing crisis is The Big Short. You kind of see some of the ridiculous stuff going on from lenders and the big banks who were too big to fail and kind of got bailed out. But there are so many restrictions in place since then that it's a whole different ballgame. That's why I think when a lot of folks thought during COVID the housing market was going to crash because 2008, 2009, two totally different things. But let's go over housing prices since 2010. Another exciting reading where I just read directly from a website. So I'm going to read to you home prices from the last 10 years from us.gov. I think it's important to actually frame this argument or this debate with some actual data and not just emotions or what folks think is going to happen or what they want to happen. But let's just talk about the data. So here we go. In 2011, the average home price was $267,900. 2012, $292,200. 2013, $342,500. 2014, $347,700. 2015, $352,700. 2016, $360,900. 2017, $384,900. 2018, $385,000. 2019, our first dip, $383,900. 2020, shot back up to $391,000. 2012, $464,200. So yeah, we know during COVID home prices went like that. So it's important to frame this argument or this once again this presentation on the actual data. And so one thing about home sales is it's supply and demand with anything. Something's worth what somebody will pay for, and so supply and demand is super important. So the demand will always be there for home ownership. What actually drives demand is the employment rate. So if folks have jobs, they're gonna buy homes, and then the supply is the supply. So let's talk about the supply portion of this. And so you may be thinking, oh, during COVID, folks didn't have jobs. Folks had jobs, folks had money, but also the supply wasn't there. That was super important. So let's look at the supply since 2021. So the supply in, April 21st, 2021, there was basically 1.1 million homes available. In May, 1.2 million homes available. Let's jump into June 2021. There were 1.3 million homes available. September 21, now we're going down, 1.26 million homes available. November 2021, 1.1 million homes available. December 2021, 880,000 homes available. January 2020, 850,000 homes available. February 2020, 850,000 homes available. And then we're kind of catching up a little bit. March 2022, 930,000 homes available. And April, 1.03 million homes available. So once again, April of this year, we're at 1.03 million. In January of 2021, 1.3. So if you're looking at a chart, and I'll post this online, it kind of goes up, and it's kind of like a U-shaped chart. So the supply is down. So once again, supply and demand is what drives any market. So the supply is low, the demand is still there, and the demand is picking up. But it's super important to know that the supply was low, and so you have to catch up with the supply in order the supply needs to catch up with the demand. So the supply was low, and so basically in 2021 we almost lost a whole year essentially, or half a year of home building, and so That's why home prices will, in my opinion, will continue to go up, even though rates are going up. And so let's talk about how home prices are determined. So you're probably like the 95 or maybe more percent of people that can't afford to purchase a home in cash, or even folks that can purchase a home in cash. Typically, it doesn't make sense for them to purchase a home in cash, and they want to get some sort of lending set up. So let's talk about that. You find your dream home is $80,000. You get into a bidding war and you end up offering $100,000 to purchase a home. You go to Chase to go get a mortgage and like, okay, we got the sales price, $100,000, great. Let's actually see what this home appraises for. So they send out an appraiser, an independent third party to evaluate the price of the home, because the original realtor was like $80,000 and you're like $100,000, and hopefully you came up with that $100,000 based on talking to your realtor about comparable sales. But the appraiser is going to go do their thing and they come back and say, hey, this home is worth $90,000. So at that point, you need to figure out how much this home is really worth to you, if you do have the money to come out of pocket to cover the $10,000 delta. And so let's talk about the supply and demand. So the demand is it's higher than normal right now. So there's probably multiple people that may offer $100,000 for the home. So what happens in this scenario is the appraisal is $90,000, and so the seller needs to either come down to $90,000, or you need to come out of your pocket the $10,000. So the lender's only going to lend you $90,000, so that you need to come out of pocket $10,000 to cover that $10,000 as far as the sale price. So for instance, like if you're putting down a 3% loan, so 3% of $90,000 is $2,700. Your down payment would be $2,700 plus the $10,000. You'd be looking at $12,700 in order to purchase this home. Once again, that $10,000 is out of pocket, not factored into the loan one bit. Or once again, the seller can come down. Typically what happens is you'll meet in the middle. So it may be, hey, they'll sell it to you for $95,000. You come out of pocket $5,000, they lower it $5,000. And so, boom, let's say to settle on $95,000 as far as the purchase price. Now that is the price of the home. That's what the home sold for. It doesn't matter what it appraised for. That is what the home is sold for, assuming that the loan closes and so forth. And so that sales price is super important, because now your neighbor's home, if they have the exact same home, is worth $90,000. And so let's talk about how appraisals work. Appraisals are based on comparable sales in the area. And so there are a bunch of factors that go into the appraisals. For instance, they look at market trends, amenities, bid rooms, floor plans, square footage. They do a visual inspection. So for some reason, like in your specific neighborhood, if there were no homes being sold, they look at like the next neighborhood over and see, do they have the same amenities? Is it the same? They have is it a nice neighborhood? Is there a HOA taking care of things? Does everything look cool as far as the home itself? And so that's how they kind of compare homes that are in the same neighborhood. But if it's in the same neighborhood, and probably in this market, it's a home in the same neighborhood, they're just going to say, hey, if the home next door sold for $95,000, your home is now worth $95,000. So now that kind of sets the price in the neighborhood. So now when you go to sell your home, the home next to you was listed at $90,000, was listed at, $90,000, or $80,000. But it sold for $90,000. Now your home is worth $15,000 more, doing air quotes, than it was, 2 months ago before that home went on sale. And so now you go to list your home for $95,000. You're thinking, hey, actually, market trends are pointing upwards. You and your realtor decide to sell this home for $105,000. And then so we can go through the same cycle. Let's say you decide to sell it for $105. Someone offers $115, and you settle on $110. Now your home is worth $110, and so now the home of the neighbors to the left is worth $110. And this cycle continues. So that's why home prices continue to go up. They rarely go down, but when they go down, it's not like a drastic trend, because once again, the baseline has been set for what homes will sell for. And so there's some variance. I mean, older homes that may not have been renovated might be a little bit less, here and there, but there's not going to be some drastic drop where all of a sudden, in a neighborhood where this home has sold for $120,000, I don't know, a year from now, the homes aren't going to be worth $80,000, something like that. A market crash is like 20% anyway. So something like really, really drastic has to happen for a market crash. But that's essentially how homes get set. Is appraisers look at comparable sales amongst other factors in the neighborhood. But comparable sales is the biggest factor when it comes to determining your home price. So those essentially set the floor for what the values are in the neighborhood. So, you know, they kind of say it's up and it's stuck. You know, once prices go up, they're kind of stuck. So once again, that's why I went back and read home prices for the last 10 years. You'll see they always go up. There was one year where it kind of went down $100,000 on average, but they're just always going to go up. You know, land, they're not building any more of it. It's a supply and demand thing. The supply, it seems like the demand will always outweigh the supply, because one thing about homes is, you know, folks need a place to live. When the folks always need a place to live. It's not anybody. It's not crypto or any asset that is kind of like the demand is kind of made up. You're going to need a place to sleep at night, and so you can choose to rent, you can choose to buy. Most people want to, if they can afford, want to choose to buy, because you have some sort of control over your overall living. So yeah, there you go. That's the video for today. If you've made it this far, you know, drop a review for the episode. That really helps me, helps my content reach more people. It helps me. So yeah, subscribe on YouTube, leave a review on Apple or Spotify. I'd really, really appreciate that. So thanks. See you all next week.